Good evening, you guys. I'm Dominic Dixon, and this is episode 1 of the People Are Talking podcast. I'm super excited to have my friend Raji Narizing on the show tonight. She's a transgender author, activist, and reality TV star. Now, most of you guys know her from her appearances on E! Network's reality TV show Botched. However, I know Raji as a friend, and I've gotten to know her over the past couple years. I flew down originally last year and did an interview with her in Florida. I brought it back here, we edited it, and kind of had a different idea that came to mind. So she's on the line tonight, but first, the most recent book is called Beyond Face Value. It's a journey to true beauty. It's a memoir. And she's doing a book signing next month, March the 23rd, 2018, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Stonewall National Museum in Wilton Manors, Florida. Raji is on the line tonight. I'm super excited. Raji.
Hi, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Dominic Dixon. Let me tell you, I feel so special to be the first one to be on your show. Thank you. I mean, everything you said, the introduction was beautiful. And yes, we truly have become friends. It's amazing how you connect with people, and you're just an awesome individual.
I really appreciate that, and it does feel like a friendship now, and honestly a confidant, and I'm excited that you stuck with me. I know it took a long time to get the idea to materialize, but I'm super excited for you and all the projects that you do in the activism, and your story just needs to be heard. So I'm really excited to be talking about the book tonight, which I just got finished reading, and I just really want to ask you a few questions about the book. I'm super excited about the book signing in March the 23rd. I mentioned that in the introduction, 2018, 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. That's going to be at the Stonewall National Museum. That's in Wilton Manors, Florida. I'll be there.
Yay!
The book Beyond Face Value. First question is, what inspired you, Raji, to write a memoir?
So many people got to know me from the story of my botched black market injections. That story went viral. I did a local interview here in South Florida. They aired it on the 11 o'clock news, one of the local stations here. And literally by 9 a.m. the next morning, my story had went viral. And Dr. Phil was calling me, Anderson Cooper, Germany TV, Spanish TV, I mean, just literally all over the world. And I felt blessed because it did give me a platform to do more of my advocacy and activism, and to really just share my story and educate people about this sort of thing. But after a while, I felt like, okay, do people really know Raji? And do they know my journey? So that's the thing that really inspired me to write my memoir, because I wanted, for anyone that was interested to find out more about me, something out there that people could go to find out more about my journey and what led me down the roads that I've gone down.
Interesting. And I find it, I read a lot of interesting facts in the book. I learned a lot of new things about you. And, I find it very interesting. Just to start, you said that that was a very great way to put that, first and foremost. And
Thank you.
I understand where you're coming from, because sometimes when it comes to like media, and when your story comes to a global stage, kind of people misinterpret, or they hear, go off of hearsay, and you don't really get to fully tell your side to the story and why people make the decisions they make. And I feel like a lot of people, especially trans people, especially in the climate we live in, just are oppressed and misjudged. So I can definitely relate there. And there's a couple things in the book that really just stuck out to me, especially when I was reading about the ribbon and some of the songs that you mentioned in the book that were like key songs in your life. And I love music. As we were talking, actually, we were doing a pre-interview before we started, and we were talking about music. And that's kind of the thing, some of the things that stuck out to me. And one thing in particular was you mentioned 2 songs. You actually mentioned 3 that came to mind, but 2 in particular in the beginning of the book when I was reading. One was called Ribbon in the Sky by Stevie Wonder, and then the other song was called, I believe it was 17 Again by Janice Ian. And at first I just wanted to know, why would you say that Ribbon in the Sky by Stevie Wonder it would be a key song in your life?
Well, the thing about those songs is it takes me back to the time when I was really growing up. And, that's what music does. It's like a time capsule. I think anyone that's listening can agree that when you hear a song, it takes you back to a time in your life when that song was out, how you felt, what you were going through. Sometimes I can almost smell the days, like that's how vivid it is when I hear a song from like the 80s, the 70s, the 80s. And I don't want to give my age away because you never ask a lady how old she is. But so the thing is, mentioning those songs, the songs that I did, those are songs that just really came to my head while I was writing the book that have like a special place in my heart, especially "Ribbon in the Sky," by Stevie Wonder.
Yeah,
it was just such a beautiful song.
Yeah, I actually.
Yeah.
Not to cut you off, but when I was reading the book, I love Stevie Wonder. I followed his music. Had never heard of Janis Ian, but I ended up, of course, listening to the songs just because I wanted to get an idea before I interviewed you. You kind of just want to like live the person's story, get it as in depth as possibly as you can. And I just was listening to the lyrics and I was like, this makes sense. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and it's and the thing is with lyrics back then, they were just so beautifully written. I mean, think about it. There's a ribbon in the sky for our love. I mean, that's just such a beautiful thing. Another artist that comes to mind too is Tina Marie.
Oh my God!
My
yes.
God. Tina Marie.
Mm-hmm.
When I tell you, Deja Vu, that song Deja Vu, when I was little growing up and I heard the song, I liked the music, I liked the words, I was singing to it, but I didn't really listen to the message. And as an adult, in retrospect, when I listened, I realized, oh my God, she's talking about reincarnation. Because in one of the lyrics, she says, "I can feel it in my soul. I've been here before." And she talks about like deja vu, like different things that has happened to her that then she remembers. And I know for me, I like, or I should say that sounds familiar or feels familiar to her. And I know for me, I have had experiences in my life when I stop and I say, wait a minute. Oh my God, this is like deja vu. Like, it's almost like this happened already. The scenario, the feeling, the interaction with the people. Yeah. And so that's another one that means a lot to me.
Wow, very interesting, iconic artist there. Now, another thing that I wanted to mention to you, and it was something I didn't know because I do research and I've seen things happen over the years and news stories that stick out, especially when it comes to people that are transgender. And I was reading in your book at the time of the publishing of this book that the average life expectancy for somebody who was transsexual is 28 years old. I just wanted to ask you, do you believe statistically that's still the case today? And if so, do you think that we are moving forward as far as being a more accepting society when it comes to people who are transgender? Or do you think that it's definitely still an issue right now and you guys are still facing the same issues that I've been reading about and hearing about for years and years and years?
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so I've been an activist for over 20 years, and I just over 20 years. 2018 would make 20. And when I say activist, I mean like, in the trenches, advocating for transgender equality. Prior to 1998, I was doing, humanitarian work and outreach work, but like I went full speed ahead from like 98 up until now. So yeah, as an activist, I can definitely say that in the last few years, there's been some progression with the transgender equality movement. Definitely. Things have gotten better here in America. But we still have a long way to go. Now, if you're looking at the world, It all depends on what country you're talking about. There are still places where being transgender is like a day-to-day life and death situation. So it really just depends on where you are in the world. But as an American transgender woman, I could certainly say that I've seen progression here in our country. And we still have a long way to go, but I'm so grateful that I've lived to see at least some sort of progression. And yeah, so there's still the issues of like discrimination with employment and housing and health care and the whole thing of being ostracized when you go out into society day to day. But what I have noticed is that and I'm going to bring up this person. A lot of people in the community, they have different opinions about them. And the person that I want to speak about is Caitlyn Jenner. Now, Caitlyn Jenner does not represent the average transgender woman because most of us were rubbing two nickels together to try to live our truth. Caitlyn Jenner had the money and the connections, resources, all of that. But what I do think she did for the transgender community is that she made Joe Blow in Alabama somewhere that wouldn't have given it wouldn't even have given a look at our community, bat an eye at our community, take the time to even try and understand a little bit about our community. She made them stop, at least if it was just for a minute, because here you had this Olympic athlete, American Olympic athlete, that he at the time was saying, all my life I felt like a woman. And that certainly made the world stop, And so that's the good thing I think that came from Caitlyn Jenner and her transitioning. And then I after that, I noticed like being out and about in society, it seemed like people became a little more tolerant because it was, and this is just my interpretation or feeling about it. I felt like when they saw me, they were like, well, crap, I can't say, how can I talk about this person when, damn it, you got, Bruce Jenner, who aka Caitlyn Jenner, that came out and says, she feels like a woman and she's now transitioned. So I really did notice a difference. Now, fast forward a few months later, I guess maybe about a year later, with the new administration, our president getting in, well, then I kind of noticed a little bit of backtracking and some backlash, and you saw like people out and about where they were. It's almost like he gave them a pass. The people that were always there, misogynistic, prejudiced, homophobic, transphobic people that were always there that kind of were like keeping quiet about it and not as blatant about it, to be loud about it, like to get louder and let you know that, well, they don't like you or they don't even want to deal with you. So it's been kind of like the thing of like 2-3 steps forward, 1 step backwards. That's how I'm seeing it.
You know what? I think honestly, sitting here, I was having a moment just thinking back. That was very powerful about the Caitlyn Jenner thing. You're very right, and I do see that in the small group of transgender people that I know, because it's a small community that I know personally. But I've always felt, sidebar, a special connection to people that were developmentally disabled or people that were transgender, just because as a gay male myself, being black, being white, being gay, I knew what it felt like to grow up being oppressed and feel kind of different, like an extrovert and ostracized and just on the outside. So I know what you guys feel, and I think that especially right now, that's why I wanted to do this interview with the administration that we have, what's going on in society. It's important to know that these people are out here, they're real people, they're humans, and they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, and like anybody else, because we all are just human beings, like you said, having a divine experience here on life, just trying to make the best that we can be, so that's very interesting. I like what you said about Caitlyn Jenner, and that's sticking with me, and I'm just thinking back on that. But there's so many different things in the book, and you have so many layers to you. You're such an interesting person. But one thing that really I thought was interesting in the book, in your memoir, Beyond Face Value, was when you talked about how you danced, which some people don't know. I think it's a really interesting fact, when you danced with Kelly Ripa on a show called, what was it, Dancing on Air?
Dancing on Air. It was originally Dancing on Air because it was a local show in Philadelphia. And then when it went national and into syndication, it became Dance Party USA.
Oh, wow.
So, and we used to go down to Channel 17 in Philly to film. And it was, the small studio with the stage. And it was kind of like, like the 80s version of American Bandstand in a way. And we had a number of celebrities that came through there, entertainers. Jody Watley. These are artists of, at the time. I met, and some of them are still performing. Actually, a lot of them are. Madonna came through. There was Bobby Brown, the Jets. I don't know if anyone remembers the Jets, but the Jets came through. We had Loose Ends. Oh my God, so many different. Oh, Morris Day. Wow. And the time. I mean, just the number of artists. So as a teenager in high school, it was a fun experience for me because I went with someone that was already on the show, and I was dancing. And what the producers would do is, for like anyone that was visiting, they would check out potential, what they call regular dancers, where they would contract you to be a regular on the show. So I had gone and I was chosen to be a regular, and so I would go to film every week, and I'd be on TV every week dancing my butt off.
Wow. I know that's right. And you said something to me. It was very powerful because it just stuck out with me as being somebody who's openly gay and multiracial. You said that this made you feel like this made you the popular faggot, in lack of a better term, in high school. So I thought that was interesting because sometimes I feel like you, as gay people or as queer people, we find things that kind of like make us interesting. Like, I know laughter was my defense mechanism to make people like me, so people always liked me because I was funny. So that kind of hid the fact of me, being, queer or gay, which I didn't even know at the time. So it's interesting how we get by in the community and the things we do, or the blessings that we have that we don't even realize are blessings that get us through hard times that are going on in our life. You've lived a very interesting life, and people need to be reading this book. There's something else I wanted to mention in the book, and on page 67, you talk about how the black market injections are like a rite of passage for people in the transgender community, and I feel like that's, in a small amount of transgender people I feel like that's very true. Do you think that's still true in today's climate with the black market injections? Like, people think that's like a rite of passage or a way to, feel more feminized if they feel like they're in the wrong body, etc.?
Okay, I'll definitely answer that. I just wanted to say one more thing in regards to, like, your comment about me writing about being the popular faggot. What I really meant by that is, because of, like, the person that I am, I got involved in high school with a lot of different things. I was in drama and debate team and choir, and then, of course, being a regular on Dance Party USA, I did become the popular faggot. But what I meant by that is, like, as popular as I was, it was a love-hate thing with people because everyone wanted to speak to me and they would say hi, and I was popular, but then it was always the whispers of, oh yeah, they're gay. Yeah. That's a homo. So it was like that whole thing of those whispers and being talked about in that way. So that's what I meant by that. And I just wanted to clarify more.
And I can relate to that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I can relate to that definitely because I was that person. So when I read that in the book, I was like, that was a full circle moment for me. It was an aha moment. I was like, wow, you know, I
Wow.
had those moments. I had so many
Yeah.
where people would wait to come in the bathroom if they knew I was using it because that was the rumor. That was what was said. So it was good. I was like, you know why? People have said things to me. I was just having a conversation actually with my mom about like when people would come to me in high school and be like, you know, Dominic, I really like you as a friend. I really like hanging with you, but you're gay, so people would be like, why are you around that faggot? Why are you around that faggot? But I was popular. I made people laugh. People liked me. So it was like this love-hate thing. It was like we want to be around him. We want to be his friend, but there's still that whisper, that talk about, oh, he's gay. He's a faggot. So I believe that's where my relation or my exception or my the partialness that I feel to people that are transgender, like I said, or developmentally disabled, because I've been in those situations. So that was like a full circle moment for me when I read the book. I was like, aha, I had those moments. I had those moments in high school where it was like, yeah, I'm popular, people love me, but there is this whisper, there is this uh, this other side to it. You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, the
So,
other side, the negative side, you
mm-hmm.
know, and just it's just something how I even think of friends that I had growing up that stopped being my friend, not because they didn't like me and they didn't want to be my friend, but because they couldn't take the peer pressure from
What
other
other
people
people
saying,
say.
"Why are you hanging around with that faggot?"
I
And
understand.
you know, for me as the friend that they were saying, oh well, I want to be your friend, but I just can't deal with the peer pressure. You know, imagine how that made me feel. I was so like hurt because growing up you have friends and they mean a lot to you
Mm-hmm.
there was this one guy, his name was Norman, and we were really good friends. Like, we'd go bike riding on the weekends and stuff. He lived like a few blocks away from me, but it's funny, I guess, with guys, like, we were young and we really weren't thinking about like sex per se.
Uh-huh.
But I think, because I had like the effeminate way about me and he was like a typical boy, he started to treat me like or interact with me like a boy would interact with a girl, but not
Mm-hmm.
like sexually, but just like that vibe of like you're two kids playing, but it's a girl and a boy playing,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't really realize that we were just like getting together and riding bikes and having fun. And I would go over to his house sometime. His mom loved me,
Uh-huh.
but his father had never seen me.
Oh wow.
And one Saturday, I went over, and his father
This was in
happened
the
to
book.
be
Was this a story
off
I read
from
in the book?
work.
Did I?
And I noticed his dad kept like staring at me and giving me these like dirty looks. And I mean, I must have been like 9 or something like that, 9, 10. So the next week, I noticed in school, because we went to the same elementary school, we were both in 5th grade. And the next week, I noticed he didn't really talk to me much at school. And then on Saturday came, and I got up and I was like, oh, I want to go. I asked my mom, can I go to Norman's, the bike ride? So she said, yeah, and I rode over there a few blocks away, and I knocked on his door,
Mm-hmm.
and he came to the door. He opened the door, and he was crying. And I said, what's wrong? And he's like, my dad said I can't play with you anymore. And I was like, why? And he was like, I don't know, but I just can't play with you. And his dad was in the background. He's like, Norman, close the door, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, he said, I gotta go. I'm sorry. Bye. And he closed the door in my face. And,
I read that in the book, Raji. That was very powerful. I read that in the book.
The LGBT community, we deal with a lot of shame, for
Yep.
no reason really, but unfortunately, the trauma that we deal with. So
Very
anyway.
true. And that was a part of that was actually a story that you told in the book that I read, and it was very powerful. That's why I said when I was reading this book, I was having like so many aha moments, so many moments I could relate to. And that was a part, you actually explained that story in the book, and it's very, very powerful. When did you realize, kind of like, bouncing off that story, when did you realize, Raji, that you were transgender, or you felt like your gender identity was a little off? You just felt different from other people. Around what age? What would you say?
Okay, so growing up, there was no internet. You couldn't go online and Google things, so you couldn't go online and say, "Well, what does it mean when you're a boy but you feel like a girl?" So for all of my growing up years, I just started to think, "Well, I'm gay. You know, I'm an effeminate gay guy," and that's what I thought all the way up until like my early 20s. And then when I started going out to the gay clubs and seeing these other trans women, I was like, wait a minute. Like it was something that I was intrigued with, but I was also afraid of it too. And I think because I was afraid of myself, like being trans, so I was intrigued, but I was afraid too. So I kind of kept my distance, but I was observing. And then I noticed that, like, my gay relationships, the few gay relationships that I had, the guys were always trying to butch me up. Like, I was never, like, masculine enough for them. And they were just always trying to butch me up. And it just didn't feel like there was a connection there. There was something missing. And the guys that did hit on me and like me were like the straight guys in the neighborhood. You know, they were like, I guess they were like connecting with the woman part of me, the femininity. And so I started to connect the dots. I started to think about different things that I did growing up, like, you know, my basketball. I would go in my room and lock the door, and I'd put the basketball in my t-shirt, and I'd walk around like I was pregnant. And then I'd have the baby, and I'd be a nice mommy to the baby. And then, you know, G.I. Joe, he was never going to war. He was always coming home to me. And I was his wife, and I was going to, you know, take good care of my husband. And then when I started to fantasize, as, you know, like when I got into my teens and my fantasies, I always saw myself with breasts and a vagina in my mind, but I didn't even realize I was doing it. I just was doing it. It was like so natural for me that I didn't even realize. But then in my early 20s, I started to connect all these dots, and I thought, wow, maybe I am trans. And then I started to slowly transition. I mean, there were a number of years that I lived as androgyny, you know, androgynous, and I lived in androgyny where I was kind of straddling the fence, and I would wear like, I grew my natural hair out, and I would just wear it like back in a ponytail, and I'd wear a little makeup, and I was doing like the unisex clothing, and I did that for a few years until I then took the plunge and went over to the to the other side.
Well, Raji, you have a very, very powerful story. The book most recent book, because she's had actually several other writings, but the most recent book that she's going to be doing a book signing for, that's March the 23rd, 2018, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Stonewall National Museum in Wilton Manors, Florida. Book signing for Beyond Face Value, A Journey to True Beauty. It's a memoir. I have one last question for you, Raji, before we get finished here tonight. And I think it's very important because your story is so important. It needs to be heard. It needs to be heard time and time again. And what's most important about you, for real, and I really mean this from the bottom of my heart, is that all the things that have happened to you, whether they have been negative or positive, you still have remained a positive person. You make a positive impact. You are a light, a positive person for people that are transgender, queer, gay, whatever you may be going through. And the question I want to ask you, the final question I wanted to ask you is, if you could say something to somebody who's out here struggling with their gender identity, whether it may be if they don't know they're trans, gay, whatever it may be, what would you say to those people?
Wow. Okay. And you know, for our listeners, I'm going to say something real quick about page 67, because I kind of took it to another tangent and I didn't answer that question, so I don't want to leave any of the listeners hanging. You were asking about the black market and it being a rite of passage. I think that since my story came out, it's cut down a lot. Like I hear from trans girls, young trans girls that are just starting transition, and they tell me, because I heard your story, I now have decided I'm not going to go down that road. But it does still exist. I just did an interview with another local TV station here because there's been a spike in it recently here in South Florida, and they wanted my input because the reporter said, you have been so out there. Your story's been all over the place. Don't you get frustrated when you keep hearing that people are going through these procedures? So, yeah, I think it's cut down, but then there's like spikes here and there. And I just hope that, people really take heed because you can die from it. There have been people that have lost their lives because they went for black market injections. So I just wanted to cover that. I didn't want to leave anyone hanging. But what I would say to anyone that's struggling with their gender identity or their identity, whatever it may be, is try and hold on to this. We are all divine spirits of the universe. I truly believe that to the core. And every single person that is born has a divine purpose. You have something special to bring to this world. Now, you may not feel that way because of what you're going through. I had my moments, and I still sometimes get those moments where you feel like, oh my God, what is my purpose? Why am I here? You feel bad about yourself. You just don't feel like you belong, but you do. Every single person that is born has a purpose in this world, has a divine gift to bring to the world. And no matter what you all are going through, I just pray that you can hold on to that. Hold on to that and hold your head up high and know that it does get better. Take it from someone that went through a hell of a lot and had moments where I didn't feel like I could go on in this life anymore. But I held on, thank God, and it did get better for me. And so I would just, really encourage anyone that's going through it to know that you're special, know that you have a reason for being here. And then do not hesitate to reach out for help. I did. I mean, if you need to talk to someone, I'm sure whatever city you may be in, there's outreach agencies. Call someone for help because you may feel like your family's not there, you have no friends, no one's in your corner. But there are resources that you can reach out to get some help and to hopefully get connected into a community that does care. I know when I go to these trans support groups sometimes, it's just so empowering to hear stories from other people that have a similar experience of me, and it makes me know that I'm not alone.
You're definitely not, Raji. You speak for so many people, and that's why you are my friend. I'm really, really thankful. I'm so happy that you did this for me, and people need to hear your story. The book is Beyond Face Value, A Journey to True Beauty. It's a memoir. Raji is doing a book signing in March. It's March the 23rd, 2018. It's going to be at the Stonewall National Museum that's in Wilton Manors, Florida. You can get the book at Amazon.com. It's available on paperback and in Kindle. Raji, I thank you so much. You are a light that shines bright, and we need you. That's really the truth.
Oh, God, thank you so much, Dominic. I love you with all my heart. You are a light, too. It takes a light to see a light, and I see yours.
Thank you.
And you just shine so bright, my friend. So thank you for having me on this show. It's just an honor. And I just wish you all the best from the bottom of my heart.
Mwah. Much love, much love. Thank you so much, Raji. Thank you.
Peace and blessings, everyone.